You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode number 307. Today we're talking about how to deal with disrespectful kids. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast, now with over 1 million downloads. Here it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have, and when you've calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Field's Mindful Mama mentor. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of Mindful Parenting, and I'm the author of Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Hey, welcome back to the Mindful Mama podcast. So glad you are here today. This is a big question, right? Like how to deal with disrespect. We were talking in the Mindful Mama Tribe Facebook group about what is the most frustrating thing to deal with your kids. And oh my goodness, disrespect and the attitude that came up a lot. And I know how frustrating it is and how it can trigger some pretty instantaneous frustration and outright anger. Like, hello, volcano, like, cue Incredible Hulk, greenness, shirt ripping, all that stuff. Disrespect. So we are going to talk about that today, how to deal with disrespectful kids. And this is another short mindful parenting bite soul episode, and I hope that it helps you. If it does, let me know. It always helps me to help you, and when I know it's doing the job. So I'm so glad you're here today, and I know this is going to be an incredibly helpful episode. So disrespect. Ugh. If you are dealing with disrespectful kids, you are not alone. If your child has an attitude, you are not alone, right? This is one of the biggest things parents come to talk to me about, and that our kids are like disrespecting us, and it's so frustrating, so irritating. So first, let's just dive into it. What is disrespect? First of all, it's basically when our children talk to us with an attitude or they're not listening to what we say, and we find it really frustrating, right? They come back at us with something sassy or saucy, and you're like, for me anyway, I'm wondering like, what happened here? How did I raise that child? Or you might even have that thought, that like old school, thought, that thing that your dad said to you, like, I'm going to wipe that smile right off your face thought, right? Like it can really be triggering for parents a lot. And there are a couple of things at work here. The first one that I want to talk about is that we often don't even realize this, but we all come from a mindset and a culture where we expect instant obedience, like right away. We're in this authoritarian culture, this father knows best culture, where we expect instant obedience from our kids, yet we also want to have a close relationship with them. We want a relationship that's cooperative. And these things don't really mesh. The like instant robotic obedience and a close relationship, those things don't coincide very well because our kids aren't robots, right? We don't expect this from our other relationships, but somehow, like, even if we're not even conscious of it, it's something to explore, whether in the back of your mind, you're expecting, like, boom, obedience right away. Like, you tell the dog to come and they come, right? We tell the toddler to come and we want them to come right away, right? Is this something you're expecting? It's something to explore. And the second thing that can happen is that our kids are being disrespectful because they're mimicking and modeling the language that we are using. Oh my goodness. I know there's a lot here. So you might say, I'm not using mean, nasty language to my kids, but chances are, if you pay attention and you listen to yourself for a week, you're probably using a lot of orders and commands. We talk to our kids and we say things like, put on your shoes, do the dishes, come over here, pick up your towel, take off your shoes, get in the car, right? All of these are orders and commands. And then we start to repeat those orders and commands because they don't really work. And then it doesn't work because our kids are like all other human beings. They don't like to be ordered around. So they resist the orders. And then we repeat ourselves, and then we're yelling, which really doesn't work because our kids can't learn when we're yelling. Just like us, our kids have, their biological nervous system, their stress response starts firing off because when you yell, you're scary. It feels like a threat to them. And so their nervous system response literally cuts off access to the rational, thoughtful parts of their brain. It literally bypasses those parts of the brain, and they might not even be fully developed. Of course, like all kids' brains are not fully developed till like early 20s. So the brain, though, gets hijacked and they can't even learn what you're trying to teach them in this moment. Your child is literally in a fight, flight, or freeze state. So, what we see as this disrespectful attitude is the fight part of that coming out. So, the commands don't work. The yelling doesn't work. So, what about this disrespect thing, this disrespectful thing? If we've been using a model, the one with the most power wins, and if I yell the loudest, if I threaten to take something away, etc., if we've been using that model, sooner or later, we're going to see our kids mirroring that right back to us. They're going to be mirroring back commands and orders. They're going to be ordering their little brother or sister around. We're going to start seeing that. We've been using a lot of orders and commands, and they're going to be craving some autonomy. And ironically, they're going to really be craving some respect. So, what a mess. I know, right? It's such a mess. As the adults in the situation, we have to be the ones to change. And the counterintuitive fix to this is to stop issuing commands. We have to start to pay attention to how we're saying things and stop issuing orders and commands. And commands are one of the 6 communication barriers that I teach inside of mindful parenting. And commands are a really big one that we use a lot. So I invite you to start listening for yourself, issuing those commands. And they may seem really innocuous, but we can stop issuing those commands and we can stop creating so much resistance from in your child. So if you have a disrespectful kid, they are resisting the way you're communicating with them. Imagine, like, if you will, in your mind, 2 fists facing each other, right? Your child is resisting, and then you're matching that resistant energy, right? Like those 2 fists, they're right there. And then you're just in a fight, and it doesn't really help anyone. It's like whoever has the most power wins. And this is how the whole adolescence rebellion kind of thing comes, because they're not rebelling against the parents, they're rebelling against the kind of destructive discipline strategies that parents are using. So instead, the counterintuitive fix to that is to not match their resistance, to step back and start to shift your language. Huh? Okay, so how would you make a request to your best friend or your respected auntie or your mom? If you were asking her to like put on her shoes and go somewhere, how would you ask that? In order to like hear this, to hear the language, I want you to really listen for your language. Are you speaking with orders and commands? A lot of times we don't even realize we're doing it. Most of the time, members don't even realizing they're using these communication barriers when we start to learn about them in mindful parenting. And I want you to really listen for that this week. So when you're hearing yourself do that, if you're hearing yourself issue commands all the time, then I don't want you to start to say to yourself, oh, I'm a terrible parent. What's wrong with me? Instead, say to yourself, aha, there it is, right? This is a win. You can't fix what you don't know is there. So you're going to start to learn and become aware of how you're communicating. To learn the language of more conscious communication in relationship with our kids, it's a challenge, right? There's a lot to learn there. It's a totally different language. It's like learning Greek. I came back from Greece in the first days of September. And, if you're a native English speaker, it may be a completely different language from your own, and it's very similar to us. Like if you have authoritarian roots of do this because I say you do this kind of thing, learning the language of more skillful communication, it's like learning a totally different language. So what does this sound like? I need an example, Hunter. What does this sound like? So one of the things I do is I practice not issuing commands. I actually just try to ask my kids to do things respectfully. And when my daughter has spoken to me with an attitude, this is how I respond. I say, when you talk to me like that, I feel really frustrated. and sad. It's hard to be around you when you talk like that. And so instead of fighting back, I'm honestly telling her how I feel and how her attitude affects me. I'm open and vulnerable instead of attacking. And that gives her little to argue with. It's basically, I'm showing her how it affects me very honestly, very openly. It's not like I'm in this role of mom and you are the role of child and you should be doing this. Instead, I'm just kind of openly and honestly addressing what's happening. And this kind of response really diffuses an attitude really quickly. It really shifts and changes things really quickly. And so to do all this can take some major inner work, right? It's like the work we do in mindful parenting. We need to make these changes to steady our hearts and our minds. And then, we pair that with the communication work to learn this new language, to learn Greek if you're an English speaker, the language of more skillful communication if you're, a native authoritarian from the land of authoritarian parenting. The beauty of learning this new language is that instead of having to raise our voice louder and louder and louder as time goes on, parenting actually gets easier, right? Like it takes effort. It takes effort and guidance and all of that to learn this new language. But then parenting gets easier and easier as time goes on because your kids learn to trust you and you learn to trust your kids. It's really a beautiful thing. So I want you to listen this week and I want you to try to notice this week. We talked about a couple things. One of them is that it may be unconscious, this mindset and culture of instant obedience. Are we expecting that? And then the other is I want you to listen for your language. Are you issuing orders? Do you think your kids are craving respect? Let me know what you discover. I'd really love to know. I'm at Mindful Mama Mentor on Instagram. It's the easiest way to catch me. I'd love to know. And if you're dealing with disrespectful kids, this might be the start of a beautiful change. I hope so. So I hope this has been helpful. For more resources, all the podcasts archived, to learn more about the Mindful Parenting membership, to dive deeper, get on the wait list. You can find all that at mindfulmamamentor.com. And I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has helped you start to think and learn about things. If you think, if you got some friends who are dealing with some disrespectful, some attitude kids, share this episode, pass it around, and then we can start to shift and change things all around the world together. That's the goal. That's the major goal here. But it's true. As we change ourselves, we're interconnected with everyone and it helps to change the world. We're part of a generation of parents who are turning things around and changing things for a better way. And I know you're part of that because you're listening to this right now. So thank you so much for sharing your time with me today, for listening. I hope it's been helpful. And I cannot wait to connect with you again soon on Tuesday. The Tuesday podcast coming out. We're going to talk about how to help your kids with middle school. Oh, middle school. Oh my gosh. Which I recommend listening to you even if you have young kids, because some of the advice that Judith gives goes back to how we parent when our kids are younger. So listen for that. Make sure you're subscribed, all that stuff. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I really, really respect that and I appreciate it. And I'm wishing you all the best, my friend. Namaste.
The most thing that I was struggling with was yelling, and even though I was reading all these parenting books and listening to webinars and doing all those things, it wasn't changing. In fact, it was getting worse. I'm able to pause a lot more before responding. Well, the coaching calls were awesome. That was probably my favorite part of the course. That day when I'd listened to the coaching call, I was a much, much better parent that day. I loved it all. I got so much out of it. Like, it's the best thing I did. It's not one and done. It's a daily practice every day. I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so worth it. It'll change you.
Say definitely do it. It's really helpful. It will change your relationship with your kids for the better. It will help you communicate better. And just, I'd say communicate better as a person, as a wife, as a spouse. It's been really a positive influence in our lives. So definitely do it.
I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so, so worth it. It'll change you.
No matter what age someone's child is, it's a great opportunity for personal growth and it's a great investment in someone's family. I'm very thankful I had this.
You can continue in your old habits that aren't working, or you can learn some new tools and gain some perspective to shift everything in your parenting.
Are you frustrated by parenting? Do you listen to the experts and try all the tips and strategies, but you're just not seeing the results that you want? Or are you lost as to where to start? Does it all seem so overwhelming with too much to learn? Are you yearning for a community of people who get it, who also don't want to threaten and punish to create cooperation? Hi, I'm Hunter Clark Fields, and if you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to seriously consider the Mindful Parenting membership. You will be joining hundreds of members who have discovered the path of mindful parenting and now have confidence and clarity in their parenting. This isn't just another parenting class. This is an opportunity to really discover your unique, lasting relationship, not only with your children, but with yourself. It will translate into lasting, connected relationships, not only with your children, but your partner too. Let me change your life. Go to mindfulparentingcourse.com to add your name to the waitlist, so you will be the first to be notified when I open the membership for enrollment. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. mindfulparentingcourse.com.